Hey guys, in this video we're gonna be covering should you perform sick, should you sing sick if you are one of our students. And I have here Miss Deborah with me. And for us it's really important to cover this topic because we do a good amount of performances. We do about 10 performances a year. And one thing that we see all the time is parents having this recurring question. So if you wanna, I guess, take it away and talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so this is a question that we get a lot, and it's a valid question because, we want to always make sure that we're protecting our bodies and listening to our bodies. That's really important, in any case, and especially when we're singing. So this is a really great question to ask. And I think, kind of from my standpoint, when I was growing up, I remember when I would be going to school and I wouldn't be feeling well, my mom would always say to me, you need to go because it's better to give 80% than 0%. And that's something that kind of stuck with me as I grew up, and especially singing all the time as I was growing, I performed sick numerous times.
Yes.
And I think that as all of you are learning and you're becoming singers, whether you're singing in your school or your community or your church or whatever it may be, as a singer, there's going to be many times when you have to perform sick. It kind of goes back to that old adage, the show must go on. So, of course, before we go any further, we want to tell you, you always need to take the advice of your doctor first.
Of course.
So if your doctor tells you something, listen to them. We're talking about, having a cold or not being sure, and, the advice of your doctor supersedes anything that we are about to say.
Yeah, and one of the things that we wanted to mention is, are you sick, but you can still stand and you can still talk? I think those two things are very important for us, because one thing is having a cold and having a little bit of a runny nose or you feel stuffy, and another thing is to have a major thing going on in which you cannot stand. I think those, for us, of course, that's different. And of course, we want to tell you guys, definitely listen to the advice of a doctor. But at the same time, we want to tell you a little bit about our experience. And we actually did a show, was it, I guess, 2 years ago. And one of the very interesting things is that we both had to perform under very, very intense conditions. So if you want to tell them a little bit about that, it was a show in which we both ended up being very, very sick.
Yeah, so this was a show that we had spent months preparing for, and Mr. Diego had recorded all of these tracks, and it was this really exciting performance that we had worked so hard for, and we were going to Orlando to perform, and there were people coming from all over the country for this conference, and we had been preparing for it, and we had sent the lyrics in advance, and the structure of the song was all pre-recorded, and everything was set, and it finally came time for the performance, and we were so excited. And Diego had been sick, and he had kind of a cold, and there were a couple songs that he was singing, but we were like, okay, we can do this. So we get there the day of the performance, and we set everything up, and there's screens and there's lights and people coming from all around the country, and we do our first set. There were 9 sets over the course of 3 days. It was like a big deal.
So we were almost playing like 2 or 3 times a day for about 20 minutes, I think, each time.
Yeah.
But it was a commitment that we had to be there literally all day.
Right. So we do our first evening performance, and everything went great, and it was awesome, and the energy was so high. And we went back to our hotel rooms, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I did not feel well at all. I was feeling very sick to my stomach, and I ended up starting to throw up, and I had this awful stomach bug. Oh my gosh, it was the worst. And when I get one of those, I just can't stop throwing up. But at that point, we still had 8 more sets over 2 days.
Yes.
So here's the thing. It was one of those moments when we're there, we've rehearsed, we've practiced, I'm singing, I am the only person in that place who knows how to do what we've rehearsed. And it was one of those times I just had to dig deep and get up on stage and just give it my best. And I would get up there and I would dance and I would sing and perform, and then I would get off stage and puke my guts up. I would go back to the hotel room. Luckily, our hotel was in the same place as the conference, and Diego would text me 10 minutes before we had to get back on stage, and I would do the same thing again and again. And both of us made a decision not to let anyone know that we were sick. And
Yes.
that's really important.
And it is important from a production standpoint, because one of the things that we talked is with the band that we were bringing, which we had a couple more teachers here from the school, it is when you tell someone that you're sick, and I have even played injured, and one time I had an injury on my hand, and I still did several dates that way. When people from the production know that that's going on, I think they can get pretty concerned, and they can get this energy that I think you don't need it to spill to everyone.
Or when your audience knows. As soon as you let your audience know that you're sick, they assume that they are going to be getting a subpar performance. And they might not know that it is, or it may not even be. And so that's part of, as a performer, you just have to dig deep and give it your best that you have, no matter what your condition is physically. As long as, I like what you said, Diego, that you can stand and you can talk, then, we encourage you to perform.
Yes.
So that's a bit of an extreme example to be throwing up on stage. But the point is, all of the times when I was younger and I performed sick with colds or not feeling my best helped prepare me for that moment when I had no choice but to perform. Yeah, and that's really what we want to instill in our young performers.
And one of the things that I think we want to mention on that subject is singing and doing performances is part of the experience. It's part of you getting mileage. Mm-hmm. So when you get into that intersection of like, okay, I'm sick, and usually for the events that we do, it's not as high pressure. You're not getting recorded and video cameras and all the thing that involved for that specific show. But we want you to have the experience, and we want you to have the experience of being sick, because that may end up happening later on in life in some other context. So we would rather have you do the performance and try to get the best that you can out of it without necessarily bailing on it and saying, no, I cannot do it. Because another thing, and I think that happened to us, and it happens to us with our student bands, when you say no and you cancel, you are affecting a bunch of other people as well. So if you're in a band of 6 other performers and you say, I'm not going to show up, I'm sick, well, the other 6 performers are going to have to figure out how to replace you, how to cut songs, do this, do that. And I think it's an impact that is not only to you, but it's to everyone else. Mm-hmm. So, and again, we're trying to talk about singing with a cold.
It's part of the experience. Like Diego said, even performing with a cold, you're gaining mileage, you're gaining experience, because if you're going to be in this industry or even just performing for fun, that is going to happen. You are going to be sick at times, and you need to learn how to dig deep and get up there even so.
Okay, so we're going to we have 5 specific tips to, if you are sick and you are going to do a performance, these are tips that can hopefully help you have the best time around it. So this will be tip number 1, and this is to get enough sleep. So
okay, so this is huge. First of all, probably the reason that you're sick to begin with is because you didn't get enough sleep to start. A lot of times when we have a show coming up, maybe we're in musical theater and it's tech week before, and we're, are burning the candle at both ends, as my mom used to say. We're not sleeping. We're not getting the rest that we need. Maybe we're feeling anxious. So the number one thing that you can do is to sleep. As soon as you feel that little tickle coming on in your throat, or you feel like you could be getting sick, go to bed. That's the best defense that you have, because your body is tired, your defenses are down. So sleep is super, super important.
Yes, and if you have a chance to maybe take a nap the day of the performance, that may also help you. Yeah. And not necessarily hours and hours, but maybe half an hour, 45-minute nap can truly help you. If the show, let's say, is at 7 p.m. and you do have the afternoon off, that you can do that. So tip number 2 would be to hydrate. And this is a very important one. You want to explain why?
So hydrating is very, very important, even if you're not sick, but even more so if you are. And this is, again, another way that you can kind of help your body ward off that cold right when you're feeling it. I have a lot of students that say, oh, I drink a lot of water. I drink 2 of these a day. And it's like, that's not a lot. This is a great start, but I'd like to see you drinking 4 to 6 of these on a normal day, and maybe about 8 if you're not feeling well. not to be gross and talk about pee, but we kind of need to talk about pee. But like when you're hydrated, when you're peeing, your pee is like a clear color. That means that your body is hydrated. So when you're sick, make sure your pee is not yellow.
And that brings us to the tip number 3, drink tea with honey. And
yes.
A lot of professional singers do this when they're sick, and you want to explain a little bit of the benefits?
Yeah, so this is a great thing to do actually at the show. And I like to do this if ever I'm not feeling well. For one thing, kind of that warm liquid just sort of helps open everything up, relax your vocal cords. The honey is very soothing. You can bring it to the show actually in like one of those like coffee containers that keeps it really warm. So you can make it at home and then bring it with you to kind of drink while you're there waiting to go on stage. And the honey is really soothing, kind of coats everything. A lot of times you hear people talk about honey with lemon, you know, tea with lemon and honey. Do not use lemon if you're not feeling well. That's too acidic and it can actually irritate your vocal cords even more so. So I would not recommend lemon if you're not feeling well. Okay,
so tip number 4, eat an apple.
So this is one of my favorite tips, and I forgot where I learned this, but this is like vocal hack number 1. And this is great even if you are healthy. You might think like, oh, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but that's not what we're talking about in this case. An apple is like the perfect, most amazing thing that you can eat about half an hour before you perform. Before you sing. So a couple things. It's not as acidic as a lemon, but it has like just the right amount of acidity to kind of cut any mucus that you have. And then talking about mucus and pee. This is a great live, Diego. Thanks for inviting me to do this. So it's a little bit acidic, and then it's also the fibrousness, the fiber of the apple helps to kind of pull down any mucus that you have and just clean everything out. Try it. It is amazing. It just helps prep your vocal cords for like blissful singing. So eat an apple.
And tip number 5, and I think this is also really important, breath support.
Okay, so once you get to the concert, it's time to perform. You've hydrated, you've slept, you've had your tea with honey, you've had your apple. Now you're on stage. Just give it your best. Part of what you're going to lose when you have a cold is there's going to be some inflammation in your vocal cords. So you're going to lose a little bit of your flexibility and control. So you really want to make sure that you're using good breath support. Make sure you're using that deep diaphragmatic breathing and supporting. That will help to give you the best case scenario that you have.
Yes.
And then most importantly, don't let your audience know that you're sick. Don't tell people that you're sick. Don't act more like you're sick. You are like an actor when you're up there, and you have to pretend like all is well. The show must go on.
Yes, and I would say you can let the musical director know. So if you're in a situation in which you're in a choir, you can let the choir director. But I wouldn't pick up a mic and say it to the audience that you're sick.
Sorry guys, I'm not feeling good tonight.
I think it's important to let the people that are making decisions know, but we're talking about the people that are also closest to you and that are in control, not necessarily the audience, and not if it's a big production, there's 25 people. I wouldn't just say that to everyone. You can say it to whoever is the musical director or the one, I guess, running the show. So I think that would definitely be a good tip.
Yeah, just get up there and do your best. Dig deep. The show must go on.
So thank you guys for joining us. We hope this video was easy to follow along and informative. If you liked the information, definitely leave us a comment. Let us know if you guys have ever performed sick, and if you have any other tips or techniques that you would like to share with everyone else into how to have a successful performance if you are sick. We'll see you guys very soon. Take care.